All right, let's jump right in. Today we're digging into a really powerful idea, the claim that the single most important institution in any society is the family. The source we're looking at argues it's the first building block, the foundation for absolutely everything else. So let's see what that really means.
Think about it for a second. What actually holds a society together? Is it just laws or the government? A shared culture, maybe? Well, the source we're exploring today says the answer is something much deeper, something that goes all the way back to the very beginning of how we organize ourselves.
Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll explore the family as the very root of society. Then we'll look at its status as a divine institution and its role as the first ever government. After that, we'll see if this pattern holds up through history, and we'll wrap it all up with the final takeaway.
Okay, Section 1. This gets right to the heart of the matter. The source we're examining makes this argument, that if you really want to understand the health of a nation or a culture, you have to start looking in one very specific place. This quote pretty much says it all, doesn't it? The argument isn't just that the family is important, it's that the family is the fundamental root system. Think about it. The economy, the government, the culture. According to this view, it all grows from that single root.
And here's the flip side of that coin. If the family is the foundation, then all those other societal problems are really just symptoms. This perspective claims that when civilizations begin to fall apart, it doesn't start in the halls of government or on the battlefield. Nope, it starts at home, with the breakdown of the family itself.
All right, on to our second point, which looks at the family through a more theological lens. The source material makes a very, very specific claim here about where the family comes from and why it's so unique. So the claim here is pretty bold. According to this theological framework, God only ever directly instituted two things. On the one hand, you have creation itself, nature, the universe, the whole shebang. And on the other, the family. Everything else, governments, churches, you name it, is considered a human invention that came along later. This whole idea is rooted in the biblical concept of marriage, often summed up by that phrase, the two shall become one flesh. Now, the source interprets this as more than just a romantic idea. It's seen as the literal creation of a brand new entity. Two people become a single, unified unit, and that unit is the basis for everything that comes after.
So that brings us to our next big idea, the family as the first government. And the source makes a really fascinating comparison here, linking the structure of a family to something we might not expect, a modern corporation.
Now, to get this connection, we need to look at this specific definition of a corporation. The key parts are you've got two or more people, they have a shared purpose, they're under some kind of higher authority, and they act as a single entity. Just keep that definition in your head for a second.
Okay, now let's apply that definition to a family. You've got multiple people, a clear purpose like raising kids, and they operate as a single social unit. According to the source, that biblical one flesh concept suddenly sounds a lot like the modern legal concept of a corporation, doesn't it?
This leads us to a really pivotal quote. When Jesus says, "Call no man father upon the earth," it's easy to think of that in purely spiritual terms. But the source we're looking at argues that in its original context, this was an absolutely explosive political statement.
And here's why. Back in ancient Rome, the word father wasn't just a family term. It was a political title. Senators were called patri, which means fathers. The emperor himself was the patronus, literally, our father in Rome. So, according to this view, that statement was a direct challenge to the authority of the state, basically telling people, don't let the government replace the family as your ultimate authority.
So is this just a theory? Well, the source says no, and it points to what it sees as a pretty consistent pattern all throughout history, where laws and even entire societies were built directly on the model of the family.
You can see this baked right into ancient legal systems. In Roman law, for instance, potestas was the authority inside the family, while imperium was the power to protect the family from outside threats. And this goes way back, even to the Anuratus in ancient Babylon, these sacred, untouchable family laws. In these systems, government power was really just seen as an extension of family power.
But okay, that's all ancient history, right? Well, the source also brings up a much more recent and really striking example to back up its claim, looking at black communities in America right after the Civil War.
Just look at this number. According to the source, by the year 1900, after centuries of slavery and facing just immense hardship, the rate of single-parent households in the black community was less than 3%. I mean, just let that sink in. It's an absolutely remarkable statistic.
And the source connects that number directly to the incredible resilience of these communities. The argument is that with almost no institutional support,
These extremely strong family structures became the engine for their economic and social progress, letting them build and thrive against all the odds.
So, after looking at the theory, the theology, and the history, what's the core message here? Let's boil it all down for the final takeaway.
Here are the three main arguments we've unpacked from the source material. First, the family isn't just important, it's the absolute foundation of society. Second, our very concepts of law and government actually grew out of the family structure. And third, history seems to show a really clear link between strong families and strong, resilient communities.
And all of this really leaves us with one last big question. If we accept this premise, that the family truly is the bedrock of civilization, then what are the consequences when that foundation starts to crack? It's definitely something to think about. Hey, if you've found this explainer valuable, please do us a huge favor and take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with others. Every little bit of engagement really helps us continue to explore these big ideas. And you can also join the Living Network at preparingyou.com. We've put the link for you right in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.